Welcome to another Whiskey, Games, and Nerd Stuff. Today's whiskey, we are having Skrewball Peanut Butter Whiskey in our coffee. And today's Nerd Stuff, we are going to talk about issue 2 of Absolute Batman. Warning, there will be spoilers. Issue 2 opens up with young Bruce trapped in the Bat enclosure when his father had pushed him and the rest of the class in there to help save them from the shooting that happened at the zoo. I think the art is pretty cool on this one. Like what the titling is right here, Absolute Batman, The Zoo, Part 2 of 5. Can you imagine how just creepy and just it would feel to have these bats crawling all over you? And then we have a couple panels here where Alfred is kind of talking about Batman, him fighting, how he's constantly going, how he's been fighting the party animals. And I like this part right here, this little panel where he talks about he plans everything, uses everything. And if that doesn't kind of just represent what Batman is, where he does plan everything and he does use everything, but to kind of hear Alfred talk about this and how just efficient and ruthless he is, just taking his opponents one by one and utilizing everything he can around him, I think that's pretty cool. This scene here is really cool where Batman crawls up the ceiling, and that's one of the cool things about his cape on this is he's able to use it as an extension for arms and legs the way it's set up. And he's hanging here from the ceiling of the aquarium, and they're saying, wow, you got us wet. You can't stay up there forever. And then he drops this chemically concentrated version of this, whatever this ends up being, and it turns the salt water into hydrochloric acid, and it ends up burning all the party animals. I thought that was pretty cool. Also kind of think it's cool where, Alfred discovered a lot of his caves. He doesn't have a bat cave. He has a lot of stash houses. And when he mapped them out, it kind of mapped out like it was the bat. I thought that was really cool. He just kind of talks about Bruce in his private life where he just works and he comes home and he works and then he pretty much, kind of stays that a monastery type of life. Then the organization that Alfred works for told him to pull off the coverage or the protection from Batman. And what was cool is the party animals ended up discovering one of his stash houses, and it was atop of this high rise that was abandoned. And of course, Batman has this set up to where there's explosions, and the way that he did the explosions and the two down here, it represents a giant ass bat. I mean, can you imagine how cool that would look like in a movie? Then what's really interesting is this kind of gets into where it flashes to Jim Gordon in the hospital talking to his daughter Barbara, and then Bruce's mom comes in. And you can tell from, or at least I shouldn't say you can tell, my interpretation of the dialogue in what almost appears to be an intimacy between Jim and Martha, I think these two are in a relationship. It just has that feel, especially when they go to share this cigarette right here. To me, it just feels like they're in a relationship, and Jim is the one that actually finds Bruce in the bat enclosure surrounded by bats. And then they kind of talk about how Bruce is, and the mom says that he wasn't doing very well. I knew everything that he was doing when he was a kid, but when he got older, or after the accident, or not the accident, after the shooting, he kind of just withdrew, which is understandable. This is a really cool scene right here, and at first I wasn't sure where the timeline is, but I think this next couple panels is before what we see in the beginning, and I'll explain why here in a bit. So I think this is a classic thing where you've got the Riddler, you've got Penguin, you've got Two-Face and Killer Croc, all childhood friends of Bruce, and they're just sitting around the table playing poker. I think this is awesome. I would love to see some artwork out there. Somebody has to have some artwork where they're all in their costumes sitting around playing poker. I think that would be a great piece out there. I'm sure there's got to be some fans that have done that. They've got some great dialogue between them. I really think it's good. And at one point during the game, Bruce pulls out one of the masks from the party animals. And Riddler goes in there and talks about, oh, like, yeah, this is what you could do with it. This is how good the parts are. It's high tech. If you could reverse engineer this, you could actually find out, where people were. And that goes into the earlier panels where Alfred was talking about how it's almost like he sees where everybody's at. So this to me definitely signifies this was happening before. And then Bruce was using Riddler to help uncover what this was, but just as a casual. And of course, he says he found it as a cleanup as part of his job as a civil engineer. I do kind of like the little throw in here where they have a poker hand that says, I've got 3 aces, 4 if we're playing with jokers. And they go, jokers are never welcome here, Bruce. So I kind of thought that was really cool. So after the conversation, Bruce goes into Hill's office. Hill is the gentleman that was the former mayor who is now running against Jim. He walks in to hack into the file to figure out what's going on. And then, of course, ends up being a trap. And I like this scene right here where he says, I like you. I do. You're my kind of party. So I'll make you a deal. Everything you've ever wanted, but full disclosure, you're in a bit of a spot. And he called in the GCPD, and he's got his people in there shooting a rocket launcher at Bruce. And then, of course, he goes to escape. He jumps down this elevator shaft, lands into this area, and Alfred is there. And he says, hey, hear me out. And Batman's like, no. And he goes, you're a good detective, kid, but I've learned some things about them. The party animals, they're not what they seem. And then he says, and then Bruce says, you have 30 seconds. And he says, okay, well, let's get out of here unless you have a car. I've got a car hidden in the back unless you have one. And then this is awesome. This would be the best movie scene. Batman goes, you're standing in it. And the next thing you know, you see a industrial-sized dump truck, bat dump truck, hauling ass out of this building. I need to see this in a movie. This would be the scene of all scenes. And there's so many cool things about Absolute Batman where I think that if they were to do either a cartoon or a live-action movie, that there are so many scenes in here that would be just amazing. And then what's interesting, and then it goes back to Bruce as a child, and they introduce Selina. And, she's saying, hey, get up, we're coming with me. So I'm really liking where Scott Snyder is going with this. I love the art by Nick Dragotta. I apologize if I say your name incorrectly. The only complaint I really have about this issue is I wanted it to be longer. I wanted to read more. And my other thought about this is, God, this would make an awesome movie. This would make an awesome movie. It would make a great anime-style movie as well. I'm really, really enjoying the Absolute Batman run right now. I can't wait till issue 3 comes out. I would love to hear in the comment section what your thoughts are on issue number 2, and then some predictions. Let's get some predictions out there about where they think this is going to go. One of the things that I think is going to end up happening is how in the the main continuity, Alfred was helping out Bruce and Batman and all that. I have a very strong feeling that what's going to end up happening is Alfred and Jim Gordon are going to end up being those mentors that Bruce and Batman need and help guide him to become the absolute Batman. Something's going to happen, and I think the two of them will kind of help them out. And I even see a situation, instead of having a Robin who's a kid, imagine a Jim Gordon as Robin or Alfred as Robin or a version of that. I can see them doing something like that, where that would, to me, that would fit in with this. But I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear some thoughts out there about what you think is going to happen. Really appreciate everybody watching this. Please like, subscribe, and all that fun stuff. And until next time, folks, cheers.